Okay, we were in siman lamed, which deals with the order of the parashiyot. So, just to recap briefly what we saw before we went on a break, we had the machloket, what's known as Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam, although the machloket much precedes Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam. It was already machloket in the times of the Geonim regarding the order of the parashiyot, that according to Rashi, Rambam, etc., and all those, the parashiyot go in the order that they're written in the Torah: Kadesh v'Yaki v'Yacha, Shema v'Hayim Shamoa. And again, from the perspective of the person wearing it, it's left to right in that order, so that from the perspective of the one looking, facing, the one adorning the tefillin, it's right to left. That's what we speak about the Mimin HaKoreh, that the order is from the one, the reader, who was looking at the tefillin. From the perspective of the Meniach, it's Mismol, that order. Rabbeinu Tam is the same. The only thing that he switches the Shema and the V'Hayim Shamoa, that it's, instead of being Shema V'Hayim Shamoa, it's V'Hayim Shamoa and then Shema. In other words, Shema is on the outer end and V'Haya inside. In other words, according to Rabbeinu Tam, the order is two parshiyot, Kadesh v'Yaki v'Yacha, from the left, again from the left of the person wearing it, and then Shema V'Hayim Shamoa, they go in the other direction from Shema to V'Haya, and that's what we say Havayot lehadade. The two V'Haya, V'Hayim Shamoa and V'Yaki v'Yacha, are in the middle. By the way, I think one of you asked me last time, what about the findings in Midbar Yehuda? I didn't do much research on it. I tried to read a little bit of what I found online. I think from what I saw, it's basically reported that there were different tefillin found. Some like one was like Rashi, one was like Rabbeinu Tam. A lot of the tefillin, it's not even clear what they were, because apparently the first people who found them opened them out and took out the klafim without recording how they were placed in. There were also tefillin that had a aseret hadibrot in them, which is interesting. It's sort of reminiscent of the Gemara in Masechet Brachot, that originally, I mean, there the Gemara is not speaking about tefillin, it's speaking about Kriyat Shema, but you can compare the two. That they used to say aseret hadibrot in Kriyat Shema until because of the minim they stopped. That they said only the aseret hadibrot are from Hashem and nothing else, so that's why they took it out. Anyway, so, and I think there's still stuff being found, or I read something about a year ago that somebody found like more stuff that, I mean, the artifacts were found, but nobody bothered to look at them. So I don't think we'll be able to be, I mean, even if we did, it would be hard to be machriya on this machloket based on those findings, but it's interesting. Rav Goren wrote about it, although some criticized what you wrote. But again, I'm just saying very superficial, what I looked at the literature. Okay. So getting back to
Thank you so much.
What?
Thank you. Thank you so much for looking at it. No,
that's helpful at all. But,
I think it is. It's very interesting.
I know I saw somebody published a very interesting blog where he put a letter. I think he published a letter. It was written by Rav Herzog to one of the archaeologists who was working on it. He said, it's very, very important that you tell me exactly what you find, especially so that we know regarding the machloket of Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam. And then the archaeologist wrote back to him, I don't understand what you're talking about. These findings are hundreds of years before Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam were even born. So he said to him, I don't need
no idea.
He said Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam are just the names. It's the shitot that pre-existed. Okay, anyway, continuing here in the Shulchan Aruch in siman lamed. So that was in seif aleph. Seif bet. So what do we do to maaseh? With regarding this machloket. So here, the Mechaber says as follows. He said already in seif aleph, umin haga olam kerashi be'arambam. In other words, that the karadin is like Rashi and Rambam, and that's what most people wear. They just wear tefillin de Rashi. However, here in seif gimel, he quotes from the Sefer Truma and the Rosh and others that say as follows: Yireh shamayim yetzei yadei shnehem v'yaseh shtei zogot tefillin. So somebody who is God-fearing, he should be choshesh for the both shitot, and he will make two pairs of tefillin. V'yaniach shnehem, and he should wear both of them. Here he means wearing both of them simultaneously at the same time. V'yichaven b'hanachatam באותם שהם אליבא דהילכת אני יוצא ידי חובתי, והשאר הם kiretzuot be'alma. In other words, even though he's wearing two pairs, his kavanah should be whichever one is the halachically correct tefillin. That's the one that I'm intending to fulfill the mitzvah with, and the other it's just leather straps. I have no intention for the mitzvah for that. Because as we saw, the Gemara already in Eruvin said, the Gemara obviously wasn't talking about Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam. The Gemara was talking about somebody on Shabbat finds tefillin and he wants to wear them so that to bring them to a safe place, that there's place in the head to put on two pairs of tefillin. And also tefillin shel yad, there's a place to put two of them. ואם אינו יודע לכוון המקום ולהניח שניהם יחד, יניח כדברי האחד של יד ושל ראש, ויניח אחרים על סמך ברכה ראשונה. Okay, what happened here in the Shulchan Aruch is that there was a difficulty understanding this passage, and the Be'er HaGolah added some words and changed a little bit the Girsa in the Shulchan Aruch. That's what you see here in brackets. However, many Mefarshim, like the Mishnah Berurah, didn't like this tampering with the wording of the Shulchan Aruch and reverted back to the original wording of the Shulchan Aruch. The reason how we know it's who tampered is, let me just show you quickly. There is the new editions of the Shulchan Aruch, the Friedman editions. So they did a very nice job saying all the Girsaot here. So they point out they put here in brackets the words V'yisarkem miyad and also the words V'yesh omrim she'im, and they point out here in their footnotes Tosefet Mahadurat. Can't read those words. I think that's the year Tafkaf Aleph Be'er HaGolah, and also here B'dfus Rishon Katuv V'im lo yuchal Ula mi Be'er HaGolah higia. Okay, a lot of the times the nusach that we have in the Shulchan Aruch, a lot of things there were added in a slightly later edition of the Be'er HaGolah, either by himself or by the printers. So the Friedman edition, they have a Dfus Rishon, an earlier print. In general, it's good to look at them when there's questions in the nusach of the Shulchan Aruch, because they clear all that up. Anyway, getting back to here, so what is the difference here? So here, according to the way the Mishnah Berurah reads it, which is again based on the original Yosah and the Mechaber, what he's saying here is as follows: in other words, according to the first opinion, you actually put on the two pairs of tefillin simultaneously. It's not that you put on Rashi and then you add Rabbeinu Tam. You actually tie both Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam at the same time together, and you place them on the head. You place the two, and then you both straighten them together. So obviously, you need to be very clever to do that. Okay, so he says that this says if you don't know how to put them both on simultaneously, then yaniach kedivrei echad shel yad v'shel rosh, v'yaniach acherim al smach bracha rishona. In other words, I'm still wearing two pairs of tefillin at the same time, but instead of putting them on actually simultaneously, I put on one, tie it, shel yad and then shel rosh, and then do the second one also. I put in then, let's say, so I put on Rashi, shel yad shel rosh, and then I put on Rabbeinu Tam, shel yad and shel rosh. What's the advantage of doing it simultaneously? Why would that be preferable to actually put on two shel yads at the same time and two shel rosh at the same time? Why is that better than putting on there? Ultimately, I'm going to be bearing both of them together. Why is the first opinion better? Or if it's better?
Because of a bracha. You don't have to say bracha multiple times.
Yeah, I do a bracha, and I make the bracha, and I actually put on two pairs at the same time. As opposed to the other method, I put on one shel yad, and then I can't now put on another shel yad because that would be a hefsek between the shel yad and shel rosh. So then I do shel rosh, and then I go back shel yad and shel rosh. So I'm sort of have to rely on the bracha that I made, even though I did some other stuff in the meantime. So
and this way, for sure, you said the bracha over the right one.
No, the first way I'm putting on both mamish at the same time. So mamish, I said the bracha on for sure. I had the right feeling then, or at least I hope I did.
If Ashkenazi would be doing this, would be he saying only just one bracha, meaning levanech tefillin the way we are, sorry, if Sephardim they know how to say two brachas only if they make a hefsek between them.
Right, correct.
We Ashkenazim know how to say two brachas no matter what happens.
Yeah.
Does the Chaber refer here to the place where he would be only saying literally just one bracha, but they're all four.
Yeah, because
And,
again, you can't make another bracha because it could be that you were yotzei the mitzvah. I mean, if you put them on simultaneously, then it's just one bracha. Even if you put them one after the other, maybe the first one that you put on you were yotzei, so you can't make another bracha.
Yeah.
So according to the Mechaber, would still only be one bracha. And according to Ashkenazim, it would be two brachot. Okay, finally, the last opinion here, again, take out the words v'yesh omrim she'im, rather it should be just ve'im. So ve'im lo yuchal laniach bevat achat. Let's say somebody says, I can't wear two tefillin at once. I don't have room, can't place two pairs at all together. Then yaniach shel Rashi v'yivarech alehem v'yu alav b'shat kriyat shema v'tfilah. V'achar tfilah yaniach shel Rabbeinu Tam belo bracha v'yikra b'hem shema v'yam shema. So this is the third way to do it, and that is to just wear just Rashi, wear it for the duration of davening, and then after davening, then you put on Rabbeinu Tam without a bracha, and you just read Shema V'yam Shema. Why? Because Al Tzad, that the Rabbeinu Tam is the correct tefillin, so there is an inyan that we say Kriyat Shema specifically with tefillin. Again, you don't need the full Kriyat Shema, it's only Shema V'yam Shema, because Shema V'yam Shema, they contain the mitzvah tefillin, so you don't want to be like Me'ida du Cheker B'atzmecha when you wear it. So Al Hatzad, that maybe Rabbeinu Tam is the correct, so we say Kriyat Shema V'yam Shema again with the tefillin de Rabbeinu Tam. Okay, so there are a few interesting details here. Again, against how is this all done? So if I put on two tefillin together at the same time, what some people do. So here the Mishnah Berurah says, "V'anoheken naniach bet zogot tefillin yaniach shel Rashi lemata letzad hapanim v'shel Rabbeinu Tam lemala." וכן כתב האריזל שיכניס תפילה של רש"י ויעמידם לצד הכתף ואחריהם של רבינו תם לצד היד ושניהם על הקיבורת. So the tefillin shel yad, the way you do it, you put the Rashi higher up on the kiboret. Again, that's the place in the arm, at the highest point. And then you put the Rabbeinu Tam below that, closer to the elbow. And in the head, it's v'yanich berosho shel Rashi lemata v'shel Rabbeinu Tam yoter lemala. So you put Rashi closest to the forehead and Rabbeinu Tam behind that. Why? Because b'shnehem b'makom harayu letefillin. In this way, you're sort of more secure that Rashi is in the correct place. Because in the head, it's definitely up to the forehead. Beyond that, we saw some dispute exactly how far you can go back. So this way, at least for sure, Rashi, you have Rabbeinu in the correct place, and probably Rabbeinu Tam as well. And the hand as well. The kiboret is for sure the right spot. And then you put Rabbeinu Tam below that, closer to the elbow. That's Ritzuot de Rabbeinu Tam yeh mechuseh tachat Ritzuot de Rashi shelo yidgalu. So again, and when you tie the straps, the Rabbeinu Tam, the Rashi should be the one exposed, the Rabbeinu Tam should be above it. Again, by the Ritzuot, we don't have an issue of Chatzitza, and anyway, it's just min b'mino, so it's not Chotzitz. So the Rabbeinu Tam you keep hidden. V'tfilin the Rabbeinu Tam yהיו קטנים מתפילין the Rashi. You should make the tefillin the Rabbeinu Tam smaller than Rashi, just so you know which one is Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam. There should be a slight difference between them. Here he says you put them on simultaneously and you actually tighten them together. Okay, now there's a question here. Why does the Mechaber advise ויכוון בהנחתם שהם אליבא דהילכתא אני יוצא והשאר הם כרצועות בעלמא? Anybody have an idea? Why do I need to have this kavanah in mind?
Otherwise, it would be Baal Tosef.
Okay, so that's one explanation. So here, the Orach Chaim gets into a long discussion, which we won't get into now, but basically, the sugya of Baal Tosef apparently is not so simple. What exactly is Baal Tosef? So there are opinions. It's not so clear that if I wear two pairs of tefillin, that's considered Baal Tosef. Why? Because there is one place that the Gemara says, Hay lechudei kai, hay lechudei kai. Not so clear what that means, but according to some, what that means is that Baal Tosef is only when I actually add to the object of the mitzvah itself. So according to that opinion, Baal Tosef b'tefillin would only be if I add a fifth parasha into the tefillin itself. But just to wear another pair of tefillin, that's not necessarily Baal Tosef. That's one opinion. Another opinion claims that Baal Tosef is only when I add another actual pair of tefillin. In other words, let's say I would actually wear two kosher pairs of tefillin, that would be Bal Tosif. But here, one of them is not tefillin, so it's not Bal Tosif. So according to those opinions, there's no issue here of Bal Tosif anyway. And the reason you have to have kavanah, this kavanah is not because of Bal Tosif, but rather simply because anyway, stam kacha l'chatchila, a person should have kavanah l'shem mitzvot when he's doing a maaseh. So what kind of kavanah does he have here? He simply has kavanah that whichever one it is the correct mitzvah. There are opinions that disagree and say that there's Bal Tosif, even if it's not part of the object, even if I'm adding something else. And they say there is a chashash of Bal Tosif here, and according to them, and a chinami. The reason why I have to have this kavanah is because otherwise, if I say, oh, I'm doing 2 pairs of tefillin, I would be over a Bal Tosif, so because of that, you need this kavanah. No, I'm only being mechaven for mitzvah in one of them. Okay, this is a long discussion here in the Orach, but that's in a nutshell the issue on that.
And how would the others explain those who are not? Sorry, I might have missed it a little bit.
What?
Those who say it's not about Tosif, how do they explain the problem?
No, they say
they
that
don't
it's just a here he says in the Orach, it's just because lechatchila you need kavanah l'shem mitzvot. Here in the Orach he says so there the mitzvot kavanah. So he says, if I have no kavanah for mitzvah, then it's not good. So he says that this is the type of kavanah you need, but not necessarily because of Bal Tosif. Okay, but some say,
can I ask?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Can I ask personally, do you wear also Rabbeinu Tam?
No, I just wear Rashi. But I can tell you my father-in-law, Rav Carmel, he wears Rabbeinu Tam, I think afterwards.
I see.
There was I have a friend who's a rabbi, a community rabbi, and he wears, like the Sfaradim, that they wear 2 pairs of tefillin together. So when he came to the shul that he was appointed, some people got in his case, you shouldn't do it. It looks very haredi. I don't know exactly. It got some people upset, but I think he kept doing it, and eventually they got used to it.
Oliver, that should be the rabbi's biggest problem.
I'm sure he has other challenges.
Yep.
Somebody was telling him, put it on afterwards. Why do you have to wear two of them together? Okay, but anyway, there is an advantage to actually wearing them 2 of them together, like the at least the way the Mechaber says it, that's preferable to the like we said, because of the bracha, etc. There is an advantage to that. Okay. Mishnah Berurah, however, says, okay. Achar tefillah, he says better after the entire tefillah, not during chazarat hashatz. He says if you're putting on after the entire tefillah, then better to wait till to after the tefillah. And he says also here at the end, pashut mi shelavesh kol hayom tefillin shenachon yoter shelibosh tefillin derashi. In the name of the Gra, that he said, not to wear Rabbeinu Tam, because he says there's so many machlokot on tefillin, you'll end up wearing tens of pairs of tefillin. Although the counter argument to that is that this is a unique machloket, very ancient machloket already from the times of the Geonim, so that's sort of the argument he has to put on more than 1 pair of tefillin. Here in Sif Gimel says the Mechaber lo ya'aseken ela mi shemuchzak u'mefurusam b'chasidut. In other words, in b'farhesia, not to do it. Here he says שכיוון שהעולם נוהגים כרש"י, נראה כי יורה מי שחושש להחמיר על עצמו בזה, אם אינו מוחזק שמחמיר על עצמו גם כן בשאר דברים. Although nowadays it's very common, I don't know how much Yora there is. But if somebody is choshesh for Yora, then maybe do it privately. Sif Daled. סעיף ד' says the מחבר לא יניח בית הזוגות בכיס אחד, שהאחד מהם הוא חול ואסור להניחו בכיס תפילין, אלא יעשה שני כיסים וסימן לכל כיס שלא ייתן זה בזה. Here the problem is as follows. If I make a kis for a tefillin, then that becomes a tashmish de kedusha, and I can only use it for kedusha. So I can't now put the other pair. Let's say I made a kis of tefillin for the tefillin shel Rashi. I can't now use that kis for the tefillin shel Rabbeinu Tam. Why? Because maybe the tefillin, it could be that it is tashmish kedusha, and the tefillin de Rabbeinu Tam are not divrei kedusha at all, and it's like a dvar chol, and therefore I can't put them in the kis. Okay, now this is not so simple. Here, the Mishnah Berurah says, if initially when I made the kis I designated for both of them, then in essence, it hasn't really become a tashmish de kedusha because it was initially intended not just for the tefillin, which is one of them, but also for the other one. Also, he says here at the end, in other words, if you have a larger talit bag and you put the tefillin in them, that there's no problem. Why? That talit miyuchad gam ledvar chol do a talit. A talit is considered a tashmish de mitzvah, but not a tashmish de kedusha. So therefore, the bag of the talit does not have any kedusha. But if I make a special one just for Rashi, then I can't use it for the Rabbeinu Tam or the reverse, and that's why I can't switch them. Okay, now here the Mishnah Berurah says something which is I've seen actually asked. What about switching the batim or the ritzuot from Rashi to Rabbeinu Tam? In other words, let's say I have a pair of Rashi and I want to take out the parshiyot and put in Rabbeinu Tam parshiyot, the order of Rabbeinu Tam instead. Can I do that? So he says, וכל שכן הבתים והרצועות והפרשיות משל רש"י לרבנו תם או איפכא. He says, so I can't switch, again, because if it was a tashmish de kedusha, now I'm turning it into something else, right? Because let's say it was Rashi, now I'm switching it to Rabbeinu Tam, so in essence I've changed it from filin to a dvar chol, because this is not filin, according to the opinion that this is the filin. So I can't switch batim and retzuot that served for Rashi or for Rabbeinu Tam, I can't switch them to serve for the other. Okay, but that's only if somebody actually wore it. If it wasn't worn yet, in other words, this is what we call hazmanah, but it hasn't been actually worn, then it hasn't yet received that kedusha, and you're allowed to switch it. ואפילו אם יתנה אליהם מעיקר להחליפן כשירצה לא מהני דמקודש שלכל לא מהני יתנה. So he says, even if I made a tie initially, I can't switch them. This is what he rules here in the Mishnah Berurah. In the Orach Chaim, he has some questions about this, whether this is really correct. He's quoting here from one of the achronim for these arachot. He has a few questions on it, but you see, he rules. He says regarding the hazmanah, he says it's not so clear that if I didn't wear it, then I'm allowed to switch it, because maybe hazmanah does not allow you to change it towards dvar chol. On the other hand, he says maybe it's not really considered mikodesh chol because I'm still wearing it, even though it might not be tefillin. It still has parshiyot of Torah. It's not that I'm using it for something secular. And anyway, Lamaisi, he says as follows. That's his ruling: that if I haven't worn it yet, in other words, let's say this could be practical. Let's say somebody ordered a pair of tefillin, okay, and he ordered, let's say, Rabbeinu Tam, okay. He wanted to order for himself Rabbeinu Tam. Recently, somebody had a question like this. He ordered a pair of Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. The sofer got mixed up and made it Rashi, and he never worn it yet. Okay, so if he hasn't worn it yet, then you could switch it to Rabbeinu Tam. Okay, but if you already put it on, then that's it. You can't change it. He also says here, continues, כתב הפרי מגדים, די מצא רצועות בידיהם של רש"י ורבנו תם, יכול להניחות לפרשיות של רש"י, דירוג המניחים של רש"י, ואנן סביר עליהם גם כן דרש"י עיקר ומעלין בקודש. So he says, if I find something, רצועות, I don't know whether it's served for this or that, then I can use it for Rashi. Also, when I take out the tefillin, I should take out first the Rashi and then the Rabbeinu Tam. If, let's say, I accidentally took out the tefillin bag of Rabbeinu Tam before Rashi, he says, nevertheless, I should first put on Rashi. He says, אם נזדמן שהוציא קיש של רבינו תם תחילה, יעבירם כי לדידן רש"י עיקר ולא עד איזה אין מעבירים על המצוות, ואף על פי כן לכתחילה ייזהר שלא לבוא לכך. He also says, בכל המועד אין להניח של רבינו תם. You put on tefillin on Chol HaMoed, right? I'm guessing in Deutschland. So he says, for those that do put on tefillin on Chol HaMoed, not to put on Rabbeinu Tam. I guess it's sort of like a sfek-sveka, whether you actually have to put on tefillin, and even if you put on, you already put on Rashi, and because the Zohar is so against putting on tefillin on Chol HaMoed, then not to put on tefillin of Rabbeinu Tam. Okay, let's see just quickly, siman lamed hey as well. It's very brief. He says, Nahagu b'minyan hashitim, nichtov b'shel yad shiv'a shitin b'chol parasha, u'b'shel rosh arba'a shitin, v'im shina lo pasad. Regarding the lines in the parashiot, the minhag is that in shel yad, we make each parasha 7 lines, and shel rosh, we make each parasha 4 lines. Again, obviously, you make the lines wider or not as wide, depending on the parasha, and depending on whether you're doing 7 lines or shel rosh. There is a list of which word you start with and which line you start with. Says here as follows. I think nowadays they do it more carefully.
Ich habe mit Ihrem Kollegen gesprochen.
He warns about only buying tefillin from people who know what they're doing. I don't know how this is common. Back in those days, it seemed quite common that teenagers would write tefillin. That's why there are a lot of discussions in the poskim how they even tell whether that they're gedolim, because it's not enough to have bar mitzvah; they actually need 2 seot. I don't think that's so common nowadays. To have people that young writing tefillin, that would be an issue. Okay, any questions or comments? Okay, very good. Shkoyach to everyone. So Bezrat Hashem, next time we'll start siman lamed vav. That's the big siman of the shapes of the letters, all your she'elot on your sifrei Torah, etc. So we'll try to understand some of that.
Thank you so much, Harleen. That's so great to hear you again.
Yeah, great to be here. Shabbat tov.
Kol tov.